Welcome. Hi there. Welcome to Vietnam Authentically. This is where you find the insight into life and business in Vietnam. And welcome today. We have with us Mark, Scott, and my name is Petra Dita. We are going to be talking about Mark's business, which is Diving Vietnam. Welcome, Mark. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's very nice to see you. I'm excited about the interview.
Thank you. So, what is Diving Vietnam?
Well, the business. Let me show you kind of. We'll kind of go around my dive center here. So it kind of starts here. You got this nice big mural of what hopefully we would see, but unfortunately we see only part of that. This is my equipment stand. Over here is another thing up on the top of the shelf there. I teach first aid, CPR, emergency medicine type stuff. So that is my actual CPR mannequin, but with a full face diving mask on it. There's a nice little turtle picture. And of course, a messy desk. You know, a cluttered desk means a good mind, I guess. But you know, so pretty simple, pretty basic. Like most Vietnamese businesses, my business is inside my home. So outside, I have signs for the dive center. Up on the main road, I have signs for the dive center, all that type of stuff. But a typical Vietnamese business is one part of their home is a business, and the other part of their home they actually live in. So like you can see that door back there, I have actually this separated off. I have a door that I can close that keeps my kitchen and dining area separate from my business area, and my actual living area is upstairs.
So you offer scuba diving, I guess, and then you mentioned about CPR training. What else?
You know, anything to do with the water. I do swim classes. I do first aid rescue classes. I do beginner people who have never, ever even been in the water before. I could take them snorkeling or diving and make them feel real comfortable just by taking your time and slowly explaining everything to them. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, like I told you before, I took the guy that was paralyzed, the guy that had broken his back in the auto accident, and he decided that he wanted to do a discover dive. So he had never been in the water. He brought two of his friends with him. The unfortunate thing was that they told me they could swim, but you know, I knew the guy that was paralyzed couldn't swim anymore. But the two friends, they were all three from India. And their idea of swimming and our idea of swimming is a little bit different. So it was
Wow.
a day. Had I known that they weren't quite what they represented themselves to be, they're great guys, really, really great guys. But then they finally broke down and told me, you know, Mark, we really can't swim that well. I said, yeah, it didn't take me long to figure that out.
I think that's a great
But
story.
it was a great experience.
Yeah, I think that's such a great story about, someone that paralyzed and yet still be able to experience that sense of freedom, right, in water because, and I think that's great. But I mean,
Absolutely.
let's go into your business a bit before, and then we'll go into that story. I would love to hear
Sure.
more about that. But so
Sure.
you mentioned these are people that are coming from India. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
are your
Right.
customer typically like who are your typical customers?
The majority of my customers, because my price is higher, you know, I charge more money for my services. But I've been providing this service since 1990.
In Vietnam?
So, no, in Vietnam only since 2010.
2010.
But
That's a long time.
I graduated from university in 1990 with a degree in kinesiology, which is a fancy word for a PE coach, because I was an American football player. So they said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I don't know. I'm playing football. They said, well, yeah, but you have to pick a degree. And so they said, you like working with the kids, which I love working with kids. Families are one of my favorite things to teach. A family that starts to dive together will really have a lifetime of enjoyment. So they put me into kinesiology, which is a fancy word for the study of muscles in motion, physical education.
I see.
So I went out and did my student teaching, and I did not realize, because I was an athlete, I did not realize that people don't want to be in PE classes. I mean, it's the last thing they want to do
Right,
is to
right.
be made to run around, get sweaty and dirty.
Right. It kind of, for me anyway, it's the kind of thing that you have to do and you do it because you have to do. But yeah, no, it's not something, yeah.
Now, you're very athletic. So for somebody that's athletic as you are, to say that you don't like physical activity, I don't know if I believe that or not.
Yeah, I like walking, but yeah, I don't know about PE. But so your typical customers are a little bit like you said your pricing is a bit higher. So are they typically Vietnamese or are they typically tourists from other
Well,
countries or
I do get quite a few Vietnamese
yeah.
that are from Saigon and Hanoi. And the reason that they go with me, they've even told the other Vietnamese dive operators, because the Vietnamese have said, why are you going with Mark? He's charging more than twice what we charge. And they've just flat out told him that, because I know Mark is going to take care of me. I know Mark is going to teach me properly. And I know he actually cares about me and I'm not just a dollar sign to it. So I'm happy to pay him more money because I know he's going to take care of me.
Very nice.
So,
That's very nice
yeah,
because you offer a higher level of service and you expect to be rewarded accordingly with your pricing. How
right,
do you find
right.
your
Well, it's just like
customers?
a five-star resort or a hostel. If you stay in a five-star resort, you're going to get a higher price. If you stay in a hostel, you're going to have cheap price.
Right, and you expect
So
different level of service and product.
exactly right. Exactly right.
Right.
I mean, yeah, the product offering is completely different. It's the same product, and it's the same as a hostel. It's still a bed you sleep in, but it's what comes with that bed and what type of bed it is what makes the big difference.
Right.
So my thing is a service industry.
Yeah.
So to me, diving is not a product; it's a service.
Right.
So I provide a service.
How do your customers
I
find you?
Well, I mean, I'm on most of the search terms that you use to find. I'm on usually the first or second page of Google.
So you're
So, like,
using
if
SEO, yeah?
well, I'm just writing my own web pages,
Yeah.
and I need to learn to do SEO. So, if somebody that's listening to this is an SEO expert, I'd be happy to maybe do a trade with you, take you on a dive, and you make my page even better for me. That would be great. So, anybody that's listening to this that is into the SEO, please contact Petra or contact me, and happy to help you.
But clearly you
But
mentioned that people finding you through your ranking. So obviously your SEO is working, right? Your and we got
to be honest with you, it's just very basic. It's because I'm not a web guy. I'm an athlete. I'm not. You tell me to knock that wall over, I can knock that wall over for you. But if you tell me to program something, I'll hand it back to you and say I have no idea what you're talking about. So,
I see. What about social media? Are
I'm,
you using social media?
I do use social media sometimes. I have several Facebook pages and stuff like that. I have found that, like the last guest that you had that I joined, that a lot of these social media pages, you get a lot of people that just want to cause problems. They want to either flag you for this or flag you for that, some kind of deals. I just posted something about a guy who was trying to have me canceled back in like maybe almost 10 years ago. And just got a newsletter somebody sent to me that he's now a thief. He's was running dive trips and has basically taken all these people's money and not giving the operators any money and not giving any refund to the people. So the dive industry sometimes has a lot of bad characters,
Right. And then
and
you being
a lot
seen
of people think,
among those bad apples.
yeah, and I am because I'm a hunter. Like I said, I'm a caveman. So this particular individual decided to take like almost an 8-minute video and shorten it down to like less a minute and something of me playing with an octopus and just tried to go crazy with that octopus thing. And because of all the wokeism of a lot of people, they started threatening me, people saying, oh, we're going to come after you, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. I said, come after me, but I hope you understand how big I am. And I hope you understand I'm not going to lay down for you to come after me. So if you like, this is where I'm at. I'm not hiding. You can come find me. But of course, no one took me up on the offer. So
So what you're saying is that you're not really getting a lot of people, a lot of customers through social media. It's more trouble than what it's worth.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily it's more trouble, but I would say that, yes, social media has a lot of negative deals to it. Now, something that a buddy of mine told me to do, which I probably will do, is he said, because I was just talking to him the other day, I told him about this guy. And he says, oh, yeah, great. So the guy's getting what he deserves. I said, yeah, exactly. He says, you kind of brought it on yourself, because what you should have done is you should have never allowed people to make comments or anything on your Facebook page unless they are a friend of yours first. And you have your page open to where people can make comments and give you reviews and all this kind of stuff. So I've always been an open person. I've always allowed that. But just like the other guy said, and he kind of brought that into my mind, there's a lot of complaining and this and that. And everybody wants to be a keyboard warrior, like he said.
Yeah, so Mark is referring to, for people that are listening, Mark's referring to another episode where we interview another expat who is running a business in Vietnam, who mentions that there seems to be a lot of negativity on social media because people tend to feel like they have the freedom to say whatever they say without any real consequences. Yet it had real impact on your business, right? Because you now have trouble.
It really, it was kind of strange because it did have an impact, but it also didn't have an impact.
Right.
It had an impact it brought my, 5-star rating down to like a 4-star rating or a 3.8 or whatever.
Yeah.
So it did do that, but it also brought a lot of people that said, we didn't see anything wrong with what you did. You could have eaten it. You could have killed it. I said, absolutely. I said, this is the problem when you offer hunting classes, like I offer hunting classes. So if you want to learn how to be an underwater hunter, whether you want to do it free diving or you want to do it on scuba diving, I will teach you both. But the problem is here in Vietnam, and I have to be honest with my divers, we're so overfished. You got to remember that this is actually the Sea of China. So we have 100 million Vietnamese and we have 1.4, 1.5 billion Chinese taking everything out of our ocean. And so this is a great place for people to learn to dive because, they can't take the rocks. They can't take the reef, even though we do have some considerations with the reef. The Hung Mun Nature Preserve, they closed it to diving for a while because they said the divers during COVID destroyed the reef. Well, I got kicked out of the country because of COVID because my business is based on tourism and they would not renew my residency card until after COVID was over.
Oh, wow.
So where are the divers that were going during COVID? There were no divers.
I see. Interesting.
But the divers were taking videos of the damage that had occurred and therefore making everything look bad. And so the government's answer to that was, let's stop allowing diving for a while, let the reef recover.
I see. So, I mean, like, just back to the business side of it, we talk about SEO, we talk about social media. What else? Like,
Sure.
What else is bringing your customers in? Like, I assume there's word of mouth.
Yes, word of mouth is hands down my best means of getting new friends. Because, once I take you diving, you actually become my friend. And I appreciate all of my friends because without my friends, I would not have a life right now. I wouldn't be able to support myself. And so, you really have to, I've never treated diving like solely a business. You're not a number to me. You're actually somebody that I'm actually helping do something that I've been doing. My original certification I got when I was 15. So, and at that time, that was the youngest that you could be. Now it's dropped all the way down to 10.
Wow.
I can actually train 10-year-olds now.
Wow, yeah. That's crazy.
Some 10-year-olds are good and some 10-year-olds are not.
Yeah, I got my advanced certificate in Australia when I was, I actually forgot, but not that young. Yeah, probably in my 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to take you. Let's go.
So what about, like you said that, so you've been running this business in Vietnam for a long time, except during the COVID time that you got, your permit got canceled. Why Vietnam?
Right. I was playing rugby in Tokyo in 2008, 2009. And my time was up. And I came here on vacation with the guy that I was playing rugby with. First we went to Thailand, and then we came here. Thailand was very nice, but Thailand is very, very touristy. But this place in 2009 was really still so young in tourism, and there were so few activities and stuff like that. So it was a very nice place to come and start a business. And so I had done some deals with Amigos Divers, which is a Russian dive company, and went out, dove, said, loved it, and said, okay, I'm coming back here. When I finish my contract, I'm going to come back here and I'll open my dive center.
Wow.
And so in 2010, that's what I did. I came back and opened my dive center. Before I was here, I was in Hawaii. I was in Hawaii for almost 10 years. But in 2008, Hawaii was the financial crisis of the U.S. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
Because Australia, I don't think really had the same problem. And you're actually from Australia, right?
Yeah. I was in Australia in 2008 for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so did you come straight to Nha Trang or as a part of Vietnam? How did you end
Well, I
up?
mean, I toured everything from basically Da Nang down.
Yeah.
So I did, Ho Chi Minh, I did Hue, I did, basically all the little touristy there. I was here for, I think 9 days.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I ran around and I spent 5 of those 9 days I spent right here in the Trang, because I ended up teaching my friend's dive class here. He ended up going around to all the dive centers that were here, asking to allow me to teach him diving, and wanted to know what the price was. He did the same thing in Thailand, but in Thailand, the price was the price. They didn't make a deal for him. But here, he came here and he found Enrico, and Enrico needed an instructor to help with a class, and told my friend, yeah, if your friend will teach my divers, then yeah, you guys can come out.
Nice.
And that was a good thing for me. That was a good thing for me, because that was what allowed me, when I came back, to get started in business, because he wanted me to come to work for him. I said, no, I said, I don't want to work for you. I don't want to work for anybody. I work for myself.
Very brave.
I feel that when you work for yourself, you're not really working, even though you're really working hard.
Right.
But you know that everything you do is for you, not for someone else.
Right.
So my suggestion to everybody is, if possible, if you can find something that you love to do and you can figure out a way to make money at it, then you'll be happy. You might not be rich in money, but you'll be rich in experiences.
Right. Right. So what about employees? Do you have any people, or is
I
it
have
just
I, I have an accountant. Obviously, I have some Vietnamese people that I use when I have enough divers that I can employ them. Um, but it's very difficult right now. There's just not enough tourism to go around. We really need to do something to stimulate tourism.
right?
Whether it's offering a free 30-day visa, we could come up with all these ideas, but until the people that are in power decide to do something, there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, we got the
Uh,
90-day visa that just came into effect from 18th or
but
15th of August.
yeah, yeah, but I agree with the other person as well. The 90-day visa is really used to abuse the system.
Right.
Most tourists come here for less than 90 days.
Right.
So the 90-day system is for English teachers that don't have full-time jobs. They can come in, they can work for 90 days, and then go to the next place. Or they can get another 90 days and stay and continue to work for, say 6 months, and then move to the next place.
Right.
So it does have a place. If they made the work situation easier, then there wouldn't be the conflict that they have with the 90-day visas like that. In the past, it was never a tourist visa; it was a 90-day business visa. Because when I first came here in 2010, that's what I had to come on, was a 90-day business visa. But there was no tourism visa. But now I think they've actually made it a tourism visa. Is that correct?
Right now, the 90-day, I'm talking about the tourist visa. I don't know the business visa, but the 90-day is
Okay.
the tourist visa. I think it's still not very clear in terms of, I heard discussion about people said they're not sure if people can just like renew it back to back or not. That's still a question because, with the
Right.
30 days, people would do a border run. They would go across to Cambodia or go to Thailand or whatever for the day or even, maybe a couple of days and then come right back and have another 30 days and then keep doing that every 30 days and literally live in Vietnam, but every 30 days is a new visa. But now with the
Exactly.
90 days, I think there's still a discussion because it is brand new. Like this thing just came into effect like a few weeks ago, like on the 15th of August. So I think people are still trying
Right.
to figure out. Yeah. Yeah. But
Now, in
it
the
was,
past,
yeah,
you
go
could
ahead.
renew your 90-day business visa.
Right.
But here's the weird thing on the business visa. It didn't allow you to actually. Uh, it allowed you to plan business. It was really kind of a gray area. It really wasn't set up properly to where it was allowing you to do business. It was
Oh,
allowing you to kind of plan business. At least that's kind of what I was told. So I don't know. So I as quickly as possible, moved from the 90-day visa to my residency card, work permit.
so you had to leave Vietnam during COVID. And then,
Yes,
so when you come
yes.
back, everything's brand new. So what kind of things did you have to do to re-establish your business?
Very, very difficult. Very difficult because the capital investment, I had to bring back more money for the capital investment to increase. I was very lucky in the fact that I had left the majority of my gear. Well, really, I left all of my gear, but at least I got back, I would say, I wouldn't say the majority, but I would say I got back more than half.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I mean,
because I,
scuba gear is like impossible to be transporting it back and forth to a different country. Like, you're not transporting
exactly.
a tank.
No, no. I've got 30 scuba tanks, and luckily I got 25 of them back. I had almost 300 kilograms of dive weights, and I got back about 130 of that back. So I got almost half of that back.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
wetsuit.
I had
Wetsuits are bulky.
wetsuits, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, all that stuff. So what I did is I left all that here. I left that with a French guy who was married to a Vietnamese woman, and he was here on a marriage. Uh,
Right. Spousal.
trying to think what they call it.
Yes.
Spousal support. Yeah, spousal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He has
and he got
5 years. 5 years visa.
right, right,
Yes.
right. But I think he actually, on top of that, got a 3-year residency card.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
you can
Right.
get the, but again, I'm not married, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. Right. So,
So,
so then what about the paperwork? What kind of permit or paperwork that you have to get in order to?
well, I mean, you have to reapply, even though my business had been active since 2010, they just had to reapply. I had to go back to immigration. They had to get my tax clearance, you know, made sure that all my taxes were paid on time. I actually, before I left, I put money into my business account to make sure that any of the taxes that occurred while I was gone or anything like that would be taken care of.
Wow.
And I had an accountant that did an okay job, not the best job, but did an okay job, and was able to get everything redone. I probably we shouldn't talk about what really is required to redo it. Um, just simply because there are some things that are not normal.
Actually, that's an interesting conversation, right? Because even with other episodes, like with other, I mean, like multiple people that I have interviewed now said the same thing is that things are a little bit different in Vietnam, right? Like the piece of paper that you sign, it doesn't mean whatever it said, and that piece of law that was written there is being interpreted very differently by different people, right? So things that, and
Exactly.
right, and it takes patience, right? Because it doesn't get
Yes.
done.
Yes.
Right. What
Yeah,
else
you
is
can't you can't bring, and see, this is the only thing I disagreed with the guy that was talking. He kept saying the American dream. Now, I consider myself a Texan before I'm an American, because I grew up in the South in Texas, and we're different. Right? We're not your regular run of the mill American. You know, we are, I would say, more conservative, more straight to the point, more in your face, more we tell you this is what we think. And of course, yes, most of us have guns, which is something that, you know, obviously here in Vietnam, you're not allowed to have any guns. And because Vietnam has never really had any population with guns, it works here. What they're trying to do in America, where they're trying to take away everybody's guns, is never going to work, because that's written into our Constitution that, you know, you have the right for the Second Amendment to protect yourself. And what that was for was that we were under a tyrannical government, the English, and, you know, we didn't want anybody to be able to come over and take us over again. So that's why it was written as a Second Amendment of the Constitution, that you have the right to keep and bear arms.
But what does it mean
The,
for you running a business in Vietnam? Like what does it translate into the culture shock or the differences in how you do business here?
well, I mean, for me, I don't really see any business difference as far as me dealing with you or dealing with my other friends that I'm taking diving. I don't really see any difference in that.
Okay,
Because the way I run business is the way I would run business in Texas.
I
I pay
see.
my taxes. I do this. I do that. I try to be normal.
Right.
There's other things that occur that you just have to say, well, that's Vietnam. You
Like
know,
what? Like what kind of things?
that's well, what kind of things? It's really hard to tell you exactly
Okay.
what it is, but
Because you know, like because
uh,
people that are watching are curious to find out what kind of things that they should know because they don't know, right? It could be somebody that's never been
okay.
to
So
Vietnam. Yeah,
the way to answer that question
yeah,
is that, number one, I don't care where you're from, you're
yeah.
no longer there. Okay, you're in Vietnam. So if you don't like the way it is, then get the hell out. Stop bitching and whining and crying like a little bitch and just get out. If you don't like the way things are done here, you're free to leave. No one's holding you here.
Yeah, it was
So
interesting.
I,
Yesterday we interviewed a lady, and she actually ended up running a resort on an island, Phu Quoc, and
yeah, Fukuoka, I
I
taught a
actually
dive class
mentioned
there.
about you because she actually does water sport but doesn't have scuba diving, and so
Okay,
one of the things that she mentioned was that they have a power outage every week. It's a part of life.
sure,
You just get used to it.
sure.
Obviously, we don't
Yep,
expect that when we are in America. If there's a power outage, it probably happens once every 10 years, and when it does, it's a
right,
big
right.
thing. It's like,
But when I came here in 2010, that was happening in the track.
right. It doesn't
Yeah,
happen
we were
now,
having it.
right?
Well, I mean, it sometimes still happens, but back then it was what we called a rotating blackout. So you knew beforehand that the power was going to be shut off from, say, 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock at night on this particular day, because there was not enough power in the country to run everybody's power. And as a matter of fact, I had a girlfriend that lived in the countryside, and they only had power in the evening for about 4 hours.
Wow.
And that was their daily thing. They didn't have power. So what they had was they had ice delivered. And so they had a big cooler thing that anything that they wanted to keep cold was put in the cooler. So they were like, they were camping 100% of the time, right?
So that's 2010. What about today? Like what is in Nha Trang today that is different than in America? Life or business?
Um,
You probably don't
I,
remember what it's like in America, maybe. I think you adapted to life here and you may not notice.
right, right. I mean, and you got to remember also, before I came here, I was in Japan, which that's a culture shock in itself. Japan is one of the best countries for like being clean and being organized and being on time, and everything in Japan is very orderly. You've been to Japan yourself, right?
I have, yes. I love Japan. It's very clean, very people are very polite. It's very well organized. Everything's really
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah, yeah. Now, let me tell you this, because as an athlete, I was an athlete in Japan. I was a rugby player. Um, they really uh, give you a lot of. So in Japan, I don't know how long you stayed there. I was there for 2 years, on and off kind of thing. They always have two faces. So there's the face that they show you, which is very kind and very considerate and everything like that.
Wow.
And then there's the way they really feel. So most Asian cultures have face, means they can't lose face. They have to show a happy, calm face.
Oh,
Vietnamese is kind of like that,
oh,
you know. But Japan is very like that.
oh. So you're
And
saying that when you see a person, you may not know, they might say something, but you may not actually get to know the real whatever behind that. So
exactly,
does it mean that it takes more for you? You have to be more careful in order to trust people when you do business with people?
sure, sure, sure.
Okay.
And here's the other problem: they don't like doing business. And again, I'm talking about Japan, and Vietnam's kind of the same. They don't like doing business with anybody that's not Japanese.
I feel like it's actually the other way around in Vietnam, no? Don't you feel like you actually get kind of a, white privilege? I'm sorry. Uh, in Vietnam?
White privilege, huh?
You don't feel that way?
No, no, I don't think so. I
No?
don't think so. Not at all.
Oh.
No, no.
I actually have the impression that there's
This
this.
is the other podcast guy that we were talking with. He's kind of like I said, the American dream and this and that and this and that and all this kind of stuff. And so those are things I disagreed with him on,
Yeah,
because I don't really think it's necessarily the American dream. I think it's everyone's dream.
yeah,
To do better, to raise their family better, all this kind of stuff. I think that's everyone's dream. I don't think that's just the American dream. And he seemed to focus that he thought that people ran there because they thought that's the only place to get the dream. And unfortunately for America, the idea of the American dream is not real. I do agree with him on that. It's not real because of the cost of living, the way people have to work, this and that. So people might have this misconception of what America's like, because I've had some girlfriends say, "Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, blah, 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 blah." I said, "Well, honey, you don't really understand that. Yeah, you can make, 2 or 3,000 a month, but it's going to cost you 3,000 a month to live. So you're not going to save any money. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that unless you decide to do something drastically different."
right.
And, so you spend what you make, and whether
Right.
you're here or you're there, you spend what you make.
So you feel
And
like it's the
so,
same in Vietnam. You don't feel like you have that sort of ability to arbitrage between your earning and the lower cost of living.
you're going to have to rephrase that for me so I understand what you said. I'm going to drink some
Yeah,
coffee
I
too.
guess the conversation that you were referring to, what I think you are referring to, is with a different podcast episode that we had earlier, is that the person was referring to how he is able to live a really comfortable life in Vietnam because his income is significantly higher than what other Vietnamese are earning because he's a person coming from a European country. So his salary is actually significantly higher. He's able to work less and yet living a rather luxurious lifestyle in Vietnam because the cost of living is lower. You don't find that
Right,
the
right.
case for
Right.
you?
No, no, no. I mean, I do find that that's true. And I do find that I charge, like I said, charge more than local dive instructors.
Right,
But he's got to understand he's a physician.
right,
And so whether he's in his country or this country, he's still going to make a good salary.
right,
If he was doing some other type of occupation, he might not see the same benefit that he sees there. So it's not because he's white or not because he's Indian or not because of whatever. I can't remember what race he is actually.
Right.
To me, he's just a human.
Right.
Uh,
But you're not
but
you don't think that's the Vietnam thing. You think it's more the profession thing.
I think it's the profession, and I think it's also what you know.
True. Okay.
If I'm a laborer, I'm going to get paid the same as a Vietnamese because I'm doing the laborer job. But if I'm a professional, like I'm a professional teacher, he's a professional physiologist. So we're going to receive a higher income just simply because of our profession, not because of our color.
That's
So
interesting.
A Vietnamese dive instructor, if he did the same thing that I do and he had the same knowledge that I have, he would be able to earn the same income.
That's a good insight. Thank you. So
I don't believe in the color thing. I don't agree with that. You know, I'm a conservative, okay, but I've never been a racist. And basically, by me, if I said something like that, that's racist. I'm telling you, you can't do what I do because of your color, and that's not true. That's not true. It's your knowledge and your hard work and becoming the person that you want to be, not your color.
So in terms of
So
the permit, for example, I know I have a certification that allow me to dive to a certain depth. Um, there are certification for you in order for you to become an instructor, right? But
right,
does
right.
the Vietnamese government go and inspect that permit, or is that something like who enforced that?
Well, that was done basically when I got my residency card and stuff like that. So the immigration department wants to know what is your education, what is your specialty, this and that.
Oh, I understand.
So, right. But that doesn't do anything really per se if you're not a foreigner. Now, if you're a foreigner, that's the only time you need a residency card is a foreigner. So, all of your guests so far that are foreigners, we have to be approved and this and that and through the different means of I don't know, verification or whatever they have. I had to get a letter from this and a letter from that,
Right.
my degree, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So that is not an issue that's just for Vietnam. I think that, basically, if you're in a foreign country and you're doing some type of work, if it's a controlled work, then you have to have the proper accreditation for doing what you're doing.
So, do
So,
you normally, when you run your shop, do you ever expect somebody, like some kind of authority, unexpectedly turning up and inspect your facility or asking for any kind of paperwork? Or has that ever happened to you, or do you ever expect that to happen?
um, well, yeah. When I got my dive center on Hung Bung, every month the police department would send their employee over, and he would talk to me and make sure that everything was okay, and ask me if I had any problems or anything like that, and just make sure that everything's going okay. Now I think it's that I've been here so long that they don't bother anymore.
You mentioned that your shop is on the north side of Nha Trang. And from what I
Right.
understand, the north side of Nha Trang is where the majority of the Russian expat community live. So do you get a lot of that
Well,
customer group?
you also got to remember that majority of the Russian community is gone as well. The majority of the expat community that was using the 90-day visas have all left because it was just too expensive to do the monthly running back and forth.
You're not getting a lot of expats as your customers.
No, not a lot of expats. Now I have some expats that are coming on the 3rd to do a private charter, but they used to live here on a regular basis. It's a guy that's married to a Vietnamese girl, or actually two guys that are married to Vietnamese girls, or actually women, because they're not girls anymore. They're actually women. But they come and go. They're from Australia. And so they spend part of their time in Australia and part of their time here in Vietnam. I believe they both own houses here. And they came back last week, I think. And so they want me to take them out on the 3rd.
So
So
actually,
I'll do a.
actually, I mean that's actually another question I'm curious about your business, because do you have a boat, or do you rent a boat each time you take someone
Well,
out?
no dive center here owns a boat. All the boats are owned by, I would say, several individuals or several corporations. Having a boat here is extremely expensive. The boat rental is quite high. And the government, of course, is controlling all of the vessels. We have to register each and every person that we take out. I need a copy of their passport and their visa stamp. Whether they're Vietnamese or not, it doesn't matter. I still have to, if they're Vietnamese, I have to have their ID card. And if they're foreigners, I have to have their visa paperwork and their passport stamp.
So each time you take someone out diving, it's not a shore dive, right? It's a all boat dives, right?
Right. I do have one. I'm starting to introduce a shore dive simply because some of my competitors are introducing shore dive. So I will be introducing that. I have that available. So yeah, I mean, it's a possibility, but the majority of things are done from a boat. Yeah.
Yeah, so you rented the boat for the day with a boat operator, or how does it work?
Yeah. So like I said, there's several different boat operators here in town, and none of the dive centers own a boat. If I do the monthly rental for the boat, I can stick my name on the boat, and every time I need it, that boat will be mine. But you have to use it so many days a month, and you have to pay for that number of days whether you use it or not.
Right,
And for me, that's really bad business.
right.
Because
Especially
if
right
you're not
now when things are kind of a little bit quiet, right?
exactly, and that's why I also rent space from other people that have the monthly contract. I can go out with them. So the way I do my dives is I have a group charter where we go out with a boat. We may be with 4 or 5 other companies, and then they have a private charter where they pay the money for the private boat, and then they pay for the activity on top of that. So by doing it that way, they have their choice. And these particular people, because they're more affluent and have more disposable income, so therefore for them, they would rather be able to have the whole boat to themselves. The boat's for like 40 people, and there's 4 of them. So I mean, they've got complete run of the vessel, and the amount of money that it costs in relationship, like we said, things cost a little bit less here. They're used to taking private charters in Hong Kong.
Right, right.
And so, of course, obviously, Hong Kong is quite more expensive than Vietnam.
Do you see, with all these years, and obviously there's that thing about COVID, but what are the changes that you see in the way the business done in Vietnam all these years that you've been here?
The amount of customers, the restaurants and for the bars, diving with me, the amount of new friends I make is obviously depressed. And so it's difficult economically, but I think the rest it's still the same. I don't think anything's really changed as far as day-to-day business, but the economics of the business is more difficult now.
Do you think it's going to get worse in the next, 6 months or so, or do you think things going to recover?
Well, I mean, I hope not. What are you thinking is going to make it worse? Are you listening to people about another round of COVID or?
I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking you, because you're on the ground running the business.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we have the winter coming up, but we also have the holidays coming up, right? We got the Vietnamese New Year, like the Chinese New Year, and you got for other countries that are coming into Vietnam, you got Christmas and you got all that. So
Absolutely.
is that
So
going to help you?
everybody seems to think that winter is a bad time, but I've actually done just as well in the winter as I've ever done in the summers.
No, because Nha Trang is the weather is amazing in the winter, right? We are not actually cold. It's actually a great
Right.
place. Like, so we talk about business and we kind of talk about the weather. What about other aspect of life? Like, what is it like to live in Vietnam and in Nha Trang in particular? Like, personal
Right.
life, things like that.
I think you're garbled again. Can you please say what you said again?
Yeah, I think our internet connection is not very good. I don't know if this is a Vietnam factor or it's just general technology problem. But
They always blame it on the sharks attacking the cables.
oh, that
Have you
yeah.
heard?
Yeah, yeah, tell us about that. This is a thing about internet in Vietnam. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. These cables are laid along the bottom of the ocean. Okay, they're laid in a trough. There's no sharks attacking the cables. There's absolutely no reason that a shark would attack a cable. These are insulated cables. So even if a shark did decide to bite it, it's not going to be able to bite through all the insulation and all the cabling. But that's a good thing to blame things on because you can say, oh, the sharks bit the cables. So it's out of our control. The sharks attack the cables. For some reason, it's said all the time, oh, the sharks attack the cable. You know, and all the time I've been diving here, I think I've seen two, and they were about this big, maybe this big.
The sharks.
So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, tiny,
yeah,
tiny. And I was yelling, swim, swim, because
yeah.
unfortunately we eat them here. Anything that's in the ocean, we eat. And if they can get a shark, they eat it. And I've eaten shark before in the States, yeah. Okay. But we have plenty of them. But now the population of sharks is dwindling because of the shark finning. Right. So, you start with something, you have a lot of it, and then you don't control it and everything disappears.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I was asking about life in Vietnam because we talk about business and we talk about the weather,
sure.
but what about other aspect of life in Vietnam? Like, in Vietnam or in Nha Trang, like what is life like?
Okay. Um, all right. Let's say that life can be where you go out and spend 100,000 and have a great time, or you can go out and spend several million and have a great time.
You're talking about dong,
So we have
Vietnamese dong, which is
yeah,
which is from few dollars to $100,
$few $100.
$200. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's very easy. So it's up to the individual person what they want to do. Because people will ask me, well, how much spending money should I bring per day for Vietnam?
Yeah. How long is a piece
And,
of string?
right. Exactly. Yeah. No idea, right? So what I tell them is I say, what do you average spend per day when you're home? I said, whatever you average spend per day when you're home, bring the same here.
Yeah.
Oh, but we heard it's a lot cheaper in Vietnam. I said, well, it might be a lot less expensive, but budget yourself for what you normally spend. And then if you don't spend it, okay. But if you do spend it, you got it.
Right. Like you
So
have
the
options,
thing,
right? Like what you were saying is that you could spend a lot less, or you can just spend a lot at the same time. It's that you have options.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now, the thing that I didn't like when I first got here is that we were a backpacking location. And people would send me messages and say, can two of us survive on $5 a day? And I'm like, well, yeah, you could survive on $5 a day, but what are you getting for that? Where are you going to sleep? Where you could eat food, two of you, for $5 a day, as long as you don't eat too much food. But you need a place to stay, and so a place to stay is going to be maybe back then would be $6 or $7 for a place to stay, and maybe $5 or $6 for food. And so in reality, you need about $10 to $15 a day. If you have $10 to $15 a day back then, you could make it. You could be okay. But if a person is trying to come and spend $5 a day, number one, I know they're not people that are come diving with me. But I try to be polite to them, and I try to tell them, well, yeah, more realistic would be, this amount.
Yeah.
And so
What
we've
about
kind of gotten away from that.
yeah? Sorry, go ahead.
because the Trang has gotten more expensive. So the people that were doing that type of stuff are not coming to the Trang anymore. So that's kind of thankful.
Yeah, I
Because
apologize.
I also saw,
I think it's our internet connection because of the lag that I apologize. I don't realize that, so then I talk over you. I don't mean to interrupt. Please go
no,
ahead.
that's okay. That's okay. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. I was probably talking over you. But yeah, so we don't get the backpacker like we used to. We used to get a lot of backpackers. And something that I hate is when you see these people that have signs begging for other people to give them money so that they can continue their trip. Have you ever seen that?
No, no, I haven't. Yeah, but I haven't been here that
Okay.
long. Yeah,
Okay. It was in the past when we had a lot of these backpackers.
yeah.
You know,
So what
my
about
idea
social
is
life?
social life. Okay. What do we want to know about social life?
Like, what is it like
Vietnamese
in
women are
Vietnam?
beautiful. Yeah, Vietnamese women are beautiful. Yeah. Sometimes it's difficult with Vietnamese women because maybe their English level is not good and my Vietnamese level is terrible. Um, I don't understand guys that marry a Vietnamese girl that can't speak English and they don't want to learn Vietnamese. I don't really understand that concept, but that seems to be quite popular with older guys marrying Vietnamese girls when they can't speak the language. I don't know.
Yeah, there seems to be a trend,
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
I can hear the echo. Crazy. I apologize. There seems to be a trend. I see that there's a lot of yeah, foreigners, male foreigners coming to Vietnam, marry Vietnamese women. Um, I don't see as many female foreigners coming in and marry male Vietnamese, right?
You know, I've never even looked at that. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know about that. Yeah, but you're right. I see a lot of these guys. They come in, they'll end up marrying a Vietnamese girl that really they don't have anything in common with. You know, so you got to have something in common with a person, I think, in order to have a successful relationship. But if you're looking for a housekeeper and a cook and a cleaner and this and that, okay, yeah, I could see that. Okay, certain cultures, uh, sure, you got a maid and someone that sleeps with you.
So what
So
about making
I
friends?
guess that's
Like,
okay.
is it harder to make friends as an expat living in a foreign country? What kind of friends do you
Well,
make?
do you mean making friends with other expats, or do
No, actually,
you
that's a
mean making
question.
friends
Like,
with Vietnamese?
so that's a question. Who are in your circle of friends when you live in a foreign country?
I would say that I've got quite a few male Vietnamese friends, but they're all divers. So we have that. So we have that in common, and a lot of them I've actually helped train to dive. Um, the expats, I've got quite a few people that I consider friends that are expats, um, and the majority of them are either running businesses like Scott with Cafe Culture, you know, things like that. They're running businesses and stuff, and so we're both so busy. We're more of acquaintances than necessarily friends for that level. Now there are some other guys who are again older. They're married to Vietnamese women. They live here part time. They live in whatever country they're in part time. And those guys, you know, they'll invite me to coffee and stuff like that and different things. And because I'm not married and have girlfriends, they live vicariously through me. They like, oh, who are you dating now? Oh, what are you doing now? Oh, what's going on now? Oh, this and that. How do you think about this? What do you think about that? You know, so I'm like their little brother that they could talk to. So it's sometimes fun.
Do you find it isolated, like for your personal experience, do you find sort of isolated being a foreigner in Vietnam?
No, I mean, I find it very easy to meet people. I mean, but you have to be outgoing and you have to be open, and you can't be a turtle. You can't go inside your shell. So for me, I mean, you remember probably the first time I met you, I was like, hey, what's up? Hey, blah, 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 blah. I'm not a shy person. So if you're a shy person, I think it would be very difficult for you here because you also have the language barrier.
Right.
Um, the local people that speak Vietnamese and try to speak English, a lot of them are the same as in Japan. They're afraid to make mistakes. And they're afraid that if they try to speak English, that you won't understand them or that you'll make fun of them or something like that. And so I always tell people, I said, you know what? Your English is a hell of a lot better than my Vietnamese. I said, so, you can definitely make mistakes in English and we can understand what you say. If I make a mistake in Vietnamese, if I make one word wrong, you have no clue what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's Vietnamese is a
Is that true?
very difficult language, obviously. Like, you could have one word
Yeah.
with 5 or 6 different
Yeah.
accents, and each of the accent means something completely different. And accents are very
Completely
difficult.
different. Yeah.
Right. Accent is a very difficult thing to learn. And when you pronounce it
Yeah.
incorrectly, it could be disastrous. I was going to ask you about that that person, that client that you had. So you said he's paralyzed and he came from
Well,
Japan.
right.
Yeah, let's
Right.
talk about that. I mean, that's incredible, right? Because this guy is paralyzed.
Sure.
So he lost his ability to experience life, mobility in life. But now in the
Yeah.
water, he had that freedom
Yeah.
again. What was that like?
Right. Right. Well, he was in a car accident. It was about, I think he said 8 years ago. And he actually broke like C5 or C6, so up in his cervical vertebrae. And so he should actually be, according to the fracture, he should actually be a quadriplegic. But he's lucky that he still has use of his hands and arms. Um, and so, I told him, I said, well, you're not a quadriplegic, you're a paraplegic. Well, but my brake. I said, well, it doesn't matter where your brake is because you are lucky and you have full use or limited use, is if you call it, of your arms. To me, okay, your strength is not the same, but you still have use of your arms, so you're very lucky. I said, so what you need to do is you need to start developing your upper body more. Start getting because I had another friend that was in a wheelchair back in Florida, and the guy was stronger than me. He could. I think I was benching 405, and he was like 420. So his upper body, now he has shorter arms, but his upper body, he could actually bench press more weight than myself. And at that time, I was an American football player and a rugby player, so I was pretty large and very strong. And so I was trying to tell him, you just need to develop. You need to develop your strength. But when we got him in the water, he had the freedom that he just couldn't, because he was just floating. And what I tried to do is I tried to have him hold my hand. Now his left hand was his predominant hand. So what I had to do is I had to let him hold my hand with his right hand and use his left hand to swim. But it actually gave him the capability to move himself, obviously with my help, but to move himself through the water. And he just thought that was just awesome. He was like, oh man, this is so good, and I've done these type of dives before. I had a guy that is still active military that also had a spinal injury that came and dove with me here, but I didn't have to do really anything with him because part of his, I can't say what he did, but part of what he did was diving. And now he's an officer, so he could stay, even though he's paralyzed in his legs, he's in administration and he's still in the military. So no Facebook, no social media, no pictures, none of that stuff could be taken. So I don't have anything from his dive. Well, this dive, we actually did some pictures. So hopefully we'll get some here in a while. And then I'll put some on Facebook and stuff like that. But this guy did really well. from not even swimming, he told me before, he could swim, but then I said, well, you're paralyzed, so I'll help you swim as well. But then he told me, no, I really didn't swim. I just told you I could swim so that I could do the dive. I'm like, well, you're paralyzed, brother, so I didn't expect a lot out of you. But your two friends that told me that they could swim, they really can't swim. So it was a long day, but everybody had a great time. But we only made it to 6 meters, which 6 meters is great. That's plenty deep, right? Got him down to the bottom, swimming around the bottom. We did some pictures, all that kind of stuff. But he's like, yeah, man, but I could have gone to 12. I said, yeah, that's where we consider the limit for this type of discover dive is 12 meters. Well, next time I'm going to come back and I want to go to 12. I said, okay, fine. Next time you come back, we'll dive again. We'll go to 12. It's no problem. If you want, I've sent you the book. You got the PDF file. Read the book, and if you want, you can get certified. And then you can go to 18 if you want to. You can do whatever you want. And he's like, okay. So when you reward somebody by providing that type of experience for them, it feels really, really good. I mean, it feels good on a normal person, but on a person, like you said, that's lost mobility and doesn't, it's really, I hate to say this, but planted in that wheelchair, it's really, really freeing for them.
That's a wonderful story. Thank you. So, any last words before we go? Any advice? Any thought about what you would have done differently? Anything?
Done differently? No, I think as long as you come here with an open mind and you don't keep comparing it to where you came from, I think you'll be okay.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And this episode was sponsored by Viet Healthy and Smile Hotel in Nha Trang and Cafe Culture. I'm very grateful to the sponsor for making these episodes happen. And thank you so much, Mark, for sharing your story. If anyone are listening and wanted to contact any of the current and past guests, feel free to reach out to us. And if you know any other expats that are running businesses that wanted to share their stories, I'm definitely interested in talking to everyone. And stay wonderful.